this is the bare minimum now.
Manchester United on their day can go toe-to-toe with these big teams when they get it right.
The manager's come out and said, listen, forget all of that. It's not about the system. It's about this and it's about this. And that's what we saw mainly from the players.
With the additional days on the training pitch that Ruben Amorim had, you can actually get a tune out of these players. Clearly there's going to have to be work done in the transfer market, but there's no money to spend.
Say what you want about Bruno Fernandes, but I think post Sir Alex Ferguson, he is the one player that cares and he's the player that can work in this system.
And it's very easy for Bruno Fernandes to come out and say, well, we're as frustrated as the fans. Prove it.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Devils talkSPORT's Man United show, bringing you the latest news and reaction coming out of Old Trafford. And what a show we have for you today after a dramatic Northwest derby at Anfield. Joining me, of course, is Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly. And what a game it was, 2-2. Let's be honest, we all predicted losses. No one come here on their high horse saying, I knew this would happen, I knew we'd show fight. We didn't think we would. But we did, Crookie, and I have to say it was brilliant. Let's get into talking about that match. We ended a run of 5 successive trips to Anfield without a goal in the Premier League, and it could have been even better if we'd have walked away with all 3 points. Here's what Coach Ruben Amorim had to say after the 2-2 draw.
It's really clear. We lost 3 games in a row at home. Some of the games we suffered like 2 goals without doing nothing. So I'm upset today, really upset, because when I'm pleased for the performance, but everybody today is going to say to that team that they did a good job. So today I'm allowed to be the only guy upset with the team, but today we were a team.
Very direct words from Ruben Amorim there. Are Bruno and the manager right to highlight the fact that they're disappointed with this? We don't normally do that.
Yeah, I think they are, because really they're only saying what the majority of supporters are thinking. I remember at the end of our show on talkSPORT on Sunday saying to Sam Matterface back in his studio, this is the bare minimum now. You know, this is the effort, application, attitude, character that these Manchester United players need to show week in, week out, because it'd be so like this United team to go to Anfield, perform magnificently, outplay the champions-elect for a lot of the game, and then lose at home to Southampton. I think we all fear that could happen. It shouldn't, but there's a fear that it will, because this group of players have a history of turning up on the big occasion. Look at the FA Cup final last season, beat the champions. Look at Man City away from home recently, 1-0 down, come back to win 2-1. Even Arsenal away from home in the Premier League didn't perform badly that night, maybe didn't attack enough or a little bit passive, but certainly put in the effort and commitment that we didn't see at home to Newcastle. We didn't see at Molineux against Wolves. We didn't see at home to Bournemouth. So I think they've set the standard now, and it's very easy for Bruno Fernandes, who I love interviewing, by the way. I think he's a very honest guy, to come out and say, well, we're as frustrated as the fans. Prove it.
Yeah.
Go to Arsenal in the FA Cup. Produce that level of performance, because we've got a chance there.
Yeah.
You know, this is a busy period of the season for Arsenal. They've got injuries. It's probably not their priority. We're going to name a strong team. We can start the defence of the FA Cup with a victory.
Another full week to prepare.
And we can beat Southampton comfortably at home as well. So we'll only know if this is a turning point, I would suggest, after that Southampton game.
Because I'm just about to say that, Angelina. Crookie sort of alluding to maybe could this be the kickstart of a turnaround? Where did that performance come from against Liverpool, and where has that been? Has it been a case of they did just need a whole week's training to really home in on what they have to do? They did shy away from it. They did say, look, don't want to use that as an excuse. Ruben and Bruno said that, but surely that must have been a massive plus, and another whole week's training going into Arsenal now as well.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as that they needed. I mean, what I found interesting was Amorim has been hammering on about we need training, we don't have enough training. And then after the game, he was almost a little bit shy about it. Like, he didn't want to kind of be like, yes, this is because of my training, like, pat me on the back. And I really liked that, and I liked his approach. I think this is a situation where they needed time to understand what Ruben Amorim wants to get out of them. The main takeaways from this is that all the things that they practiced on the pitch, reportedly, they were better at. And this has set a standard, and this now means that going forward, this should be the bare minimum for Manchester United. But I just thought the whole thing was just really interesting. You're going into a game like that, you feel like, what are we even going to get from this? And they were just able to turn it on. And I get why Amorim was frustrated. And I like the way that he's speaking, saying, you know, you're all maybe saying it was a great game, this is the time for me to be harsh. Erik ten Hag, he'd come out talking like they'd won 10-0 and he scored all 10 goals. Like, and we're going to win, 5 different trophies that don't even exist. So I like this kind of humble approach. And I thought, the way that Lisandro Martinez was speaking, he was saying about, previously, I can't remember the words exactly that he used, but it was along the lines of, previously we were quite nervous, but we need to do this, we need to do that. And he referenced that past tense, they would have been struggling. So to me, that kind of indicates that they're understanding the assignment a lot more. And the takeaway is that Manchester United on their day can go toe-to-toe with these big teams when they get it right, when these players are doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're listening, when they're training. This team has some kind of potential.
And that's without really... Well, not really. That's without any signings. That's without Amorim really getting his teeth into this team, tearing up parts of it he doesn't like, rebuilding other areas, the bits that he doesn't like. He does like. You're right. We've managed to go to City, compete, win. We've managed to go to Arsenal and compete, undone by some set pieces and some teething problems. Go to Liverpool, arguably the hardest out of the lot to go and perform for us, and really go and do it. And one thing I did like, Crookie, is, when Ruben Amorim was saying this wasn't about the system. Loads of us have been talking, and loads of the media. I got a bit twitchy, and I did say that on the last one, didn't I? I was like, not necessarily formation, but just might have to tweak something. But the manager's come out and said, listen, forget all of that. It's not about the system. It doesn't matter about the formation. It's about the application. It's about this, and it's about this. And that's what we saw mainly from the players, didn't we? The application. There are a few tweaks in and out of possession, yes, but it was still the same formation. Yeah,
I mean, the 2 number 10s dropped a lot deeper out of possession. And that involves a certain level of work rate, and they showed that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it was attitude and application. I said they're all rubbish on the back of losing at home to Newcastle, because they were, but they're not actually terrible players, are they? There's World Cup winners in that team.
So it's a bit of an overreaction.
There's captains of their country. Yeah, but I was just so frustrated with that performance against Newcastle. But I mean, yes, it's about heart and application, but it's also about personnel. That midfield against Newcastle was a huge problem with Eriksen and Casemiro. And now you've got Ugarte, Mainu and Bruno Fernandes, who I thought was exceptional at Anfield. Really brave performance from the captain. That has to be the midfield trio.
How much did he need that
moving forward?
Rookie? A lot was made about Bruno Fernandes' performance. Man of the match, brilliant, outstanding. The fact that we're not shocked that he performed at that level, but the fact that we're talking about it so much shows us, obviously, he hasn't been up to that standard. He said himself, finally, I've played a good game, sort of thing. How important is it for him to put in performances like that? Because only the game before last, he was missing because of stupidity against Wolves.
Yeah, so I think he owed the team something, he owed the fans something, and he certainly delivered. I still think the biggest problem with Bruno Fernandes is he lets his frustrations get the better of him. That's come out in 3 red cards this season.
Yep.
It can come out
rescinded.
Yeah, 2. It can come out in his body language, and the theatrics that we see at times, maybe not befitting of a United captain, but ultimately he really cares. And the problem with this football club for the past decade has been there's not been enough players who care enough, and you certainly can't level that against him. So I was pleased for him, and I would expect another big performance at Arsenal. I know that Ruben's been chopping and changing the team because it's such a busy period, but he's got a 4 weeks training.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the same 11, I think.
Yeah, that little bit of respite for him, not that we wanted it to come in the form of a red card, Angelina, but could that have been what he needed? Just a game out,
take him
observe,
out
and he was saying when he observed, he was in the stands, wasn't he? When he observed what happened to Joshua Zirkzee, he was kind of alluding to the fact that I felt bad. I should be out there. I want, that shouldn't be happening to him, and he was helpless. Did he need that?
I think. I don't think regarding like his performance on the pitch or anything like that, because he's a player. I don't think it's a case like he needed a break. I think it's more maybe like a mental break than like for his legs or something, because this is somebody who has played every game, has avoided injury, has played through injury. He is a really hard worker. But I think for me, with Bruno Fernandes, when you go back to, what was it, 2 years ago, that 7-0 defeat at Anfield? And that's when everyone was hammering him for being petulant.
Last time he played at Anfield, because last year he was 0-0, he wasn't there.
For being petulant, for being the worst captain known to man. Amorim's spoken about how they are starving for leaders. he was one of a couple who really stepped up to the plate. I think he put in a captain's performance, and I think you can say what you want about Bruno Fernandes, but I think post Sir Alex Ferguson, he is the one player, like you say, Crook, he's the player that cares, and he's the player that's tried to drag us to something. Maybe it's not always been perfect, but he is very valuable, and I think this was the first game that I really saw him in that position, and I can see he can work in this system. My fear was, can he really do that? We know he likes to roam free a lot. If an offer does come in, is he somebody that maybe we should cut our losses with? But this game, to me, really proved that he can work in this system and he should work in it.
Another big performance that we saw, Crookie, was from Kobbie Mainoo, apart from a few misplaced passes at the beginning of the game. But look, he was on the bench against Newcastle and was needed after sort of 33 minutes to rescue us and make it be respectable. Was that a sort of needed decision for Amorim to take him out a little bit? And then now this is the catalyst to really see this side of Kobbie Mainoo in that partnership with Manuel Ugarte.
Listen, I absolutely love the kid. I have done since he first made his debut a couple of years ago now. I loved him when he finally came into the England starting 11 at the Euros and solved that central midfield conundrum that had haunted Gareth Southgate. Yes, his performance levels this season probably have dipped, but I think maybe that's a reaction to the fact he played so much football over the summer. He's not the only player to come back from that European Championship and maybe not be quite up to full speed. He was magnificent against Newcastle, and it was such a brave performance away from home at Anfield. Being a lad from the academy, he knows exactly what this fixture means to the fans and to the football club. And I think in the first couple of minutes, he won the ball high up the park and started an attack, and that really set the tone. He was snapping away into challenges, and it was such an important part of the pitch because Liverpool's big success under Arne Slot has been that midfield trio. And I think United's midfield trio got the better of them, and Kobbie Mainoo certainly was a massive part in that. I get that Ruben Amorim is trying not to overplay him, trying to manage his minutes, but as I said earlier, I think moving forward, certainly at Arsenal at the weekend, if United are going to have any kind of success, that has to be the midfield trio, Kobbie, Bruno and Ugarte.
Focusing on some other individuals, and Rasmus had a couple of chances, got into some really good positions. Other times, maybe didn't hold the ball up as well. I think we saw sort of some of the good and the bad in him in that performance. But would he benefit from having another striker to learn off, another person to take the burden off him? And does it highlight why we need sort of improvements in that area?
Yeah, we definitely need improvements. I mean, he's the only option, really. So it's been difficult for him coming in because it's not like he's had players around him he can learn from. People like Marcus Rashford, people like Anthony Martial, etc. They're not the names that are going to be able to help guide you, especially not Anthony Martial. I mean, he barely played. So, and I think what we forget about sometimes is there is this hole when it comes to Man United with centre forwards because, and you never know how things might have worked out. Had Ronaldo have stayed as long as we expected, maybe even extended an extra year, had things have been different, he would have been a figure that would have just been kind of coming towards the end as Rasmus Højlund came in. I think Edinson Cavani left the season before he came in. So, you know, it's a shame that he didn't really have that. But with Højlund, I want to see more. I maybe have to be a bit patient because I'm still frustrated by him. But as we've discussed before, you know, who do you bring in? The main thing is he's getting himself into the right positions now. Yeah. We're actually seeing him in the right positions, but we are not seeing him capitalise on them. And whether that's he's lacking in confidence, he needs more time on the training pitch. I mean, if somebody like Ruud van Nistelrooy can't get your confidence up and get something, I mean, I know he only had a certain amount of time with him, but you don't know what goes on the training pitch. But he's making a step forward, but he needs to make a bigger step forward, but he does need that support.
Yeah, it's really difficult. He's
I feel
going
for
on.
him.
Yeah, exactly. He's 21 going on 22 really shortly, and it's like, I just don't believe Rasmus Højlund should have been bought and put in this position at this stage of his career and at this stage of this Man United rebuild. He should have been bought in for a lot less of a fee, for sure, and be sort of drip fed into the team. But as it goes at Manchester United, you get a lot of senior pros not doing their jobs properly. And kids like Garnacho, kids like Kobbie Mainoo, kids like Rasmus, they have to play an awful lot of games really, really quickly to save us. And that really has been a problem. Joshua Zirkzee, look, he's had a really tough time, and we're going to talk about transfers a little later on in the show, but you know, a lot of reports saying he wants to stay and fight for his place. The away fans give him a really, really good reception, singing his name. That is one thing about the Manchester United fan base. if there has been a few discrepancies with a small minority, the majority will come out and back the player. How could have got a match-winning assist towards the end? Could he have shot if he was more confident? Who knows? But, what do you see as the future for him? Could this be a little bit of a turnaround, a little bit of a catalyst, feeling a little bit of warmth from the fans, a little bit of patience, a little bit of calm with him?
Well, that certainly won't do any harm. And actually, speaking of Bruno Fernandes afterwards, he was, as you say, very front-footed in his defence of Joshua Zirkzee. He said that really it was very uncomfortable viewing. And I think we all felt that. And I still think, actually, it wasn't necessarily directed at Joshua Zirkzee. He was the fall guy. I think it was just the frustration spilling out of the recent performances, the recent cuts that we're speaking to Laurie Whitwell about off the pitch. And really, he was a victim of circumstance. Yeah. I know he's a very popular figure in the dressing room, so it doesn't surprise me that Bruno has come out and defended him so stoically and staunchly. I think they want him to stay. I did ask Ruben Amorim outright after the game, does he have a future here? Because there's a lot of talk that maybe he'll go back to Italy. And he said, look, he trains well, but the transfer window is open. Anything can happen. So that wasn't exactly a glowing endorsement for the manager saying, I want to hang my hat on this guy. So let's see what will happen.
It's rather fortunate that we have talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, with us to go through the latest in the transfer market, because things are happening, or Manchester United are trying to make things happen. There's a lot of noise about a lot of players. Let's start with Marcus Rashford, Crookie. How do you understand?
Give us some good news.
Yeah, how do you understand the situation to be? Because it is a difficult deal to do economically. There has got to be a lot of number crunching from Marcus Rashford's side, from Ineos' side. How do you understand the situation to be right now?
Well, I think United are resigned to the fact that they're not going to be able to sell him in January for the reasons that you've said. I mean, if they did sell him, you're talking a fairly nominal fee of, 30 to 40 million pounds. I say nominal, but if we'd have said that a couple of years ago, you'd have thought we were mad when he was banging in all those goals under Erik ten Hag in that goal-laden season. But as we sit here now, I think several European clubs are sort of monitoring the situation. AC Milan, for one. I think Borussia Dortmund have been mentioned today, although my sources have distanced themselves from that. There has been interest from Turkey, but he doesn't want to go there. Definite interest from Saudi Arabia, but as I mentioned a couple of weeks back, he doesn't want to go there either.
I don't think he should get to pick and choose where he wants to go. I'm sorry. I don't think.
Well, there's the problem.
This is not a holiday destination. You just need...
Angelina, the teacher. Well, he's got to pick where he's going to go playing it. He's got to want to feel comfortable there. He's got to want to go, start playing well so we can get a transfer fee for him and eventually.
Fine, all right then.
Look at Angelina's like, it's been rubbish. He doesn't get to
out
put
the
him
door,
where we say.
wherever he's going.
But the trouble is, when you're earning the money that he is on,
he's got the power.
That's true.
You do have the power, and that's the problem that United have got. I still think his future is going to be a talking point, probably right up until the final days, if not the final hours of the transfer window. And I can envisage a Raheem Sterling type situation where he goes out on loan, United pay 80, maybe even 90% of his wages, but they've just shifted the problem onto somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not an ideal scenario for either party. Clearly, he's not reacted in the manner that Ruben Amorim wanted him to being dropped initially. Otherwise, he'd be back in the squad. I know somebody in the...
Do you think he would have? Do you think if Rashford would, like I said, had the reaction, trained well to the standard he wants, but still haven't said he wants a new challenge, he probably could have got back in? Or do you think the fact that he said, I want a new challenge, means he wants to leave anyway?
Yeah, I don't think that helped the cause.
Yeah.
I don't think he needed to say it. And then we ran the story at the weekend that he's signed up with a new agency. He denied that on social media, even though I know certainly talks have taken place with that particular agency. And I don't know why really he felt the need to come out.
Very interesting.
Come out and deny it.
Squashing that rumour, but not squashing other rumours, but really going in on that.
Yeah, it was strange, because actually, if anything, he highlighted the rumour, because fans don't really care which agency he signed up for. They just want him out of the football club, the majority of them. So, yeah, it's a sideshow still, but I think Ruben Amorim has dealt with it brilliantly. I know he was allegedly ill at the weekend, but again, it wasn't a great look that Luke Shaw and Mason Mount both made the trip to Anfield and he didn't.
Yeah, the illness around the Christmas period is an easy one to drop in there of just, no, he's ill today. Joshua Zirkzee, I know you've had a lot of criticism for him, Angelina. Actually, to be fair, let's not label that just... We've all had a lot of criticism for Joshua Zirkzee.
She was leading the booze on the strip for them.
Yeah.
No, I was not. I was not at the game. No, that was bad.
It was.
That was
we don't
bad.
ever want to see that, and we don't condone that.
Whoever was doing that, and I know people who were at the game who were turning to people that were booing and saying, shut up, because that is not how Manchester United fans behave. And I was appalled when I heard it, and I felt so bad for this kid. I was rooting for him at the beginning. I really was positive about him. But the bottom line, and I think it was, I don't know after what game, I think Crookie and I were both kind of the same opinion of, maybe he does need to be moved on.
But actually, we're talking about we want to see players who are hungry to be here, want to commit to the cause. At the first sign of adversity, he's basically saying, no, I want to stay and fight. I believe in myself and I want to be here. I kind of looked at that and thought, you know what? As a United fan, I'll get behind you for the season. Yeah, in the summer, we can have a different conversation. It's been so chaotic. There's so much going on. And here is a guy who really wants to be here. Not like, Marcus Rashford doesn't want to be here. Yeah. He doesn't want to show any fight, doesn't want to help fit into the system. So I'm going, I have seen the discrepancies in how he plays and my early signs aren't great. But after that, a bit of adversity, I thought, you know what? My personal opinion, I'm going to say, you know what, give the kid to the summer.
And he didn't go hiding when he came on.
Do you know what I mean?
Far from it. So, yeah, I think he has got... he's got a good mental capacity. Shouldn't have the number 11 shirt, though, should he?
Absolutely not. Again, another decision made
That's
at the club.
That's an iconic jersey, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? We've done it with Mason Mount. We've done it with... We're just not learning. So I do think there's factors that are feeding into these guys that really aren't helping them, which makes it really difficult to thrive.
I just think if there's something on the table, and you will know better than us, if there is something on the table,
Dusan
whether
Vlahovic
it's...
has been mentioned. Should Ineos keep away from another big name? Or if that could happen, Juventus looking to offload him hasn't really worked?
My worry about Vlahovic is that he's one of these players who seems to get linked with the Premier League every transfer window and nobody quite signs him.
It was supposed to be Arsenal a couple of years ago.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason for that. But there's definite interest from Juventus. But again, I think if United are going to loan him, and I think he's still up in the air, they would want at least an option, if not an obligation, to sign him permanently. Otherwise, they're just kicking the can down the road for 6 months.
Yeah, but I mean, a name like Vlahovic, I remember when he was at Fiorentina, there was so much hype around him, and I don't think he's quite... People were expecting him to be like Haaland levels of goal scoring, and I don't think he's not quite lived up to it. But he's 24, I think 25 at the end of this month. He does have his first professional contract was when he was 15. So the guy has been around professional football for a while. He's got more experience than Rasmus Højlund in that sense, you could maybe argue. So could he be, he's a big guy, he's got a strong presence. Could this be somebody that for a loan period you try and you see? For me personally, if that was actually a deal on the table of Xerxes with an option to buy and you get Vlahovic, I would take that all day long, because the bottom line is, and I'm not trying to be horrible, but he doesn't quite fit into this system. Somebody like Vlahovic would. So that's just where I stand. But I also understand, United fans, we are patient, and maybe I'm being a little bit harsh. Maybe everyone does deserve a season. Everyone does deserve a chance.
Yeah, so. We have seen some reports, Crookie, from David Ornstein and some others suggesting that Manchester United and Tottenham are sort of trying to push for a move for Kolo Muani from
please
PSG.
No. Please no. No. This is an old Man United signing. This has got old Man United written all over it. Sorry.
Doesn't Vlahovic, though? Isn't that the same vibe?
Well, all I would say about Muani is I was told by a very good source yesterday that he was on the radar before they signed Rasmus Højlund.
And made the cut between the both of them, wasn't it?
And I'm not convinced this is necessarily a deal that United are going to follow up. They might do, just in terms of numbers and because he's available. But again, I'm told it's not a priority for them at the moment. Tottenham probably more likely destination.
And the wing-back situation, again, talks with...
Mendes.
Bettenberg was saying that, there's some stuff with Mendes at left-back / left wing-back. I mean, would be a fantastic signing if we can get him, but PSG definitely wanting him to stay, and other suitors trying to get him. A really expensive one to do, though, Crookie.
Yeah, and I'm just not sure United have got those finances this window, and I also always get a bit concerned when you hear that a player's in contract talks. Oh, by the way, but Manchester United are interested. How much of that is their name being used to help his own cause? It wouldn't surprise me if United don't do a lot in terms of incomings this window. They're looking at the goalkeeper market. I think they were linked with someone at Royal Antwerp. There's some substance to that, as far as I understand. But I think really the priority is on trimming the wage bill. The likes of Rashford, Xerxes potentially, Casemiro for certain.
Yeah,
those links
Let's
from
talk
Saudi
about
Arabia
Casemiro,
are back again.
Actually, because the links are back, and a lot of reports saying that now Casemiro is open to that. He's only made 2 starts under Ruben Amorim since he's come. I think it was Ipswich and that dreadful Newcastle game.
He should never have come back from Liverpool at home, Casemiro, when he was hauled off at half-time. That should have been goodbye. Easier said than done because he's on such decent money. But I think if United can get him to Saudi Arabia, they would have done it in the summer, and they'll probably drive him there themselves now.
I do. It's interesting you say you don't think we'll do a lot. I'm just sort of thinking out loud, Angelina. If we do get these outgoings, though, how much of these voids will have to be filled? And depending on how creative Man United can be, whether it's loan with obligations or loans to the end of the season, shifting wages, or some permanents if they can. You know, Anthony's another one.
It's not that easy, though, is it? Because you've got the Manchester United tax, which is still a thing. You know, as soon as United come for a player,
the price is going to go up.
The price goes up.
How bad would it be for Ruben Amorim if we do shift out players, say like Casemiro, maybe an Anthony, Marcus
We've got
Rashford
good news on
loan?
Anthony, Crook. Anything, please.
Interest from Olympiacos, but I'm not sure he's particularly keen to make the move.
Right, we need to have a rule here. They don't get to pick.
Then they can't choose. You have to go.
There's some kind of stats or something. If you've been terrible in X amount of games, then you shouldn't be able to pick. No, I'm not having it.
Imagine that. I
Sorry.
mean, my worry is that there's a few players that could move. So he's like, say, Rashford. Let's say Rashford, Anthony, and Casemiro. Right? Let's just if those three leave, we have to bring in at least two.
Reinforcements
Because we're talking about how well Kobbie Mainoo's doing next to Ugarte. The only tangible change to make really is to take off take off Kobbie Mainoo when he gets tired and put Bruno back there next to Ugarte. Because there's no life in Eriksen and Casemiro.
Toby Collier, maybe? Too soon?
Potentially. I don't get the feeling he's ready.
Harry Amas seems to have disappeared, doesn't he?
Exactly. There was talks about him going on loan to Leicester, maybe not so, but he's still available for loan. So it doesn't feel like there's imminent youngsters ready to step in. So if there are some outgoings, I just really, really feel like there must be some incomings to help Ruben Amorim with this system, with what he's... I can't see these guys leaving with no incomings. Because we're making us even worse. Because we're just light on bodies then, aren't we? And lastly, Harry Maguire's had his extension triggered really quickly on that one, Crookie. Found his best form? Or found some good form?
Yeah, I thought if you take the miss aside, he was excellent at Liverpool. And obviously it was interesting to hear Ruben Amorim using that phrase, we're starving for leaders, which is not much of... an endorsement on the rest of the squad. But I think Harry Maguire is someone who steps up. I don't think he's the best defender that Manchester United have ever seen, far from it. But he's someone who's got himself up off the canvas. It looked like he was going to go West Ham, didn't it, a couple of years ago. Stayed and ended up playing quite a lot of football that season. Again, you wonder, would they trigger the extension or let him go on a free transfer at the end of the season? They've clearly seen enough, Amorim and his coaching staff, to keep him around. So, yeah, I don't think it's a terrible move. I think long term you've got to move away from Harry Maguire. But we said it when we were doing the show about, you know, stay or send away, and I think we all pretty much agreed with keep Maguire, didn't we?
Yeah. Makes sense to me for your squad depth. You know, he's better age-wise than a Johnny Evans, and he's better talent-wise than a Victor Lindelof. He's a little bit like when you look at Matthijs de Ligt. I know he's been getting a bit of criticism, but these are players for me that are they going to win you a Premier League title? You know, probably not. But are these the players that can just keep us ticking along and because of their experience and just get us to that next level? And then when we're ready to truly be competing, we can kind of move on.
Well, an awful lot for us to do in the summer, of course, but definitely in the January transfer window.
It's going to be busy one way or another.
What we can do, exactly. Definitely things happening. Now, Man United dominated their headlines over Christmas with some really worrying results in the league and even more off-the-field controversy with fresh cuts proposed by Ineos. It's already feeling like one of the most newsworthy seasons in decades at the club. Here to discuss the current state of affairs at Old Trafford, I'm delighted to welcome in the Athletics Manchester United correspondent, Mr. Laurie Whitwell. Laurie, good to see you. It's not been the easiest of times for Man United of late. How much has the performance at Anfield, how much has that done to ease the pressure at Manchester United?
I think it's been big because I think if they'd lost that game, certainly in the way that everybody was expecting in terms of Liverpool walking away with it, I think the scrutiny would have been on Ineos, on Ruben Amorim, on the players certainly. So I think the performance level for a collective, a lot of individual really good performances as well. I think that sort of just gives a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of time, and shows that actually maybe with additional days on the training pitch that Ruben Amorim had, that you can actually get a tune out of these players. I know that Bruno Fernandes and Amorim after the game said that it was all about application effort and they need to see this again against Southampton in the next league game. But I do feel like there's something to be said for a little bit of extra time on the training pitches as well.
How much does that result, do you think, raise the mood around the training ground? Because it would have been pretty low after the Newcastle debacle. There were some suggestions on the back of that maybe Ruben Amorim already had to abandon his playing style and his tactics. Does this empower the manager in many ways?
I think so because, the system has been the big talking point, right? I mean, the fact that these players, in the large majority don't seem suited to this style. Clearly, there's going to have to be work done in the transfer market, but there's no money to spend. So how the hell does that happen? But I feel that actually this sort of shows that in certain ways, in certain games, they can produce a performance. And I just think that, that the mood will have been lifted immeasurably. I think a lot of people went into that game, from all levels of the club thinking the worst, and for them to come out of it in credit, they could have won it at the end. I think it just gives them a bit of belief that actually, if they can kind of stay together, try hard, then they can actually have some success.
Obviously, one of the main talking points has been things that have been going on off the pitch, Ineos, how things have been going. What is your overall assessment so far of the job that they've been doing? Because I know we've kind of went into it feeling quite positive. I think a lot of fans felt quite positive. And you look at this, I think, Crookie described it like a comedy of errors almost. What's been your take on how they've been handling things?
Yeah, I mean, they're coming with a big agenda for change, right? Where they're trying to put football as they see it at the heart of the club, whereas previously it perhaps been, commercial revenues that had been the focus. So they've stripped a lot of things back. Obviously the redundancies that have been made, there's caused a lot of heartache, a lot of hurt, and a lot of people at the club are in a low mood about the place because of what they see as unnecessary cuts. We're talking about additional trimming of the former Players Association, the Disabled Supporters Association. So they're aspects that I don't think are going to win any PR points for Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But I think what we have seen is that he doesn't really give too much consideration for that. He will do what he thinks is right, and what he thinks is right is to make all levels of the club streamlined, and so that kind of, breeds a certain mentality, not just amongst the staff but amongst the players. That being said, I think that it does have an impact, and I think that the mood around Carrington and Old Trafford has been affected severely by it, and how much does that creep into what the players are thinking and what the players are doing on the pitch? It's kind of a fascinating dynamic to see. I mean, they've been in control, they've had the keys to the place for like a year, since Boxing Day, also since Christmas Eve, actually, 2023. So they've, had a large amount of time, I think, to instill what they, want to do at the club. But clearly they've had, some mistakes, the contract extension to Eric Ten Hag, the hiring and firing of Dan Ashworth. I think they're really big errors. They will feel that they've got the right man in place in Ruben Amorim, but as we've seen with the results on the pitch, it's not going to be a smooth sail.
Yeah, it's definitely not been easy, Laurie. And I think we're probably looking at it saying as fans, okay, you've come in. It's been many, many years of mismanagement by the Glazers that isn't going to be fixed in 1 year. You've made some mistakes in year one. Now it's about looking forward. Can you start making some good decisions and backing the manager, et cetera, et cetera? I did see on your piece after the game, you had massive praise and you sung the praises of Manuel Ugarte. Was this rough patch for him like a real education for the new arrivals? Would it be beneficial for them in the long run to have learnt the levels of what we really are? That shock, basically, what Amorim's been talking about, to really understand where we are so they can, bring their levels higher. Because Manuel Ugarte does seem to be one since Ruben Amorim's come in. I've seen a couple of pieces from Samuel Luckhurst as well, sort of suggesting that Amorim's been a real catalyst for Ugarte, which you could imagine because he's had him at Sporting.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been a warm welcome for Ugarte, hasn't it, into the life of a Manchester United player. And it's been rough, and it's interesting that when he first joined, Eric Ten Hag, took his time to put him in the team. I think his first game was against Spurs, first start anyway, and he didn't have a good game there. Mickey van der Ven blasted past him inside the first sort of few minutes. And I think that was Eric Ten Hag's concern over signing him. Would he be robust enough for the Premier League? Would he be sharp enough? And so I think that was probably one of those discussions where it wasn't a certainty until the very end. Obviously, it happened on deadline day pretty much. I think Eric Ten Hag really liked what Scott McTominay did last season, knew he had goals in him, so was kind of reluctant to let him go. But the club wanted to basically get some more money into the accounts, and selling a homegrown player is the surest way to do that. So it wasn't a kind of... I think Eric Ten Hag ultimately was certainly on board with the signing, but I think it was one where it kind of needed a bit of time to kind of work out exactly when he could play him and then also in what style. And I think Ruben Amorim, obviously having worked with him at Sporting before, knows what he can get out of him. And I think it just showed that actually does have physicality to mix it in the Premier League, because you've got a midfield there in Liverpool, which are running through a lot of teams. And I think Ugarte certainly held his own and then some, to be honest. I think he covered a lot of ground and he did some really nice stuff in terms of breaking up possession and even putting some passes forwards. And yeah, that one that I kind of focused in on my piece, Flex, I sort of thought, a lot of people were telling me, is that deliberate? Was that deliberate? But I looked back and he's checking his shoulder.
You knew what he was doing.
Yeah. I thought he did, like I thought he checked his shoulder, saw Fernandes free, and because the angle of it was just such an acute one that I don't think he's fluffed that basically if he was trying to aim for somebody else. So I don't know. I want to give him credit for that pass, and that does then give a lot of belief in what he might be able to do going forward.
Well, listen, Laurie, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. I'm sure over this next few weeks, with the January transfer window, it's going to be a lot of reporting for you to do. So we'll let you get back to it, and we'll see you again on the show very, very soon, mate.
Thanks, guys. Cheers for having me.
Nice one. Well, before we get stuck into the preview for the huge FA Cup third round clash at the Emirates this Sunday, we have to share some massive news regarding Manchester United's head coach, because it's been brought to our attention that Ruben Amorim does in fact listen to talkSPORT. So with this news in mind, it would be absolutely criminal if we didn't take the opportunity to send our own personal heartfelt messages to you in a section we're calling A Message to You, Ruben. And I'm going to go first. Ruben, I'm sorry I doubted your tactics. You were absolutely right that it is not about the formation, it is about the application. So I'm fully behind every decision you make, and I'm going to keep calm in the tough moments, in the storm that you promised us would be there, and I'm going to keep calm and just keep supporting you, Ruben.
Well, I'm not quite sure how to follow that, but I echo what Flex was saying. Ruben, all the fans are behind you. We know that there's going to be some difficult days ahead. We've had some difficult days already, but keep the faith. This is a magnificent football club, and under your tutelage, I'm sure we'll get it back to where we belong.
From me, Ruben, I would just want to say, do not forget the fans. It is tough. I know you've got the hierarchy breathing down your neck, but I would just say don't ever forget the fans and keep being the positive, brilliant voice that you are being for the fans and making us feel heard and understood.
Absolutely, Ruben, absolutely. And keep dressing the way you're dressing, because we love it as well. Little bit of swag, little bit of drip. We do like that. Right, we are the FA Cup holders, but we take a trip to the Emirates in the third round. I mean, that's a tough draw, isn't it? But, Crookie, how important is it that we keep the momentum going, after a good performance at Anfield, but also, believe that we can go to the Emirates and win another ground that we've gone to in recent years and haven't done well in at all?
No, we haven't, and obviously already lost there in the Premier League this season, albeit with an OK performance. As I've already touched on it, it wasn't the worst performance of Ruben's tenure, far from it. And I do think it's a good time to play Arsenal on the back of a disappointing result for them at Brighton, on the back of the first leg of a semi-final for them in midweek as well. They've got injuries. Even Waneri, who looks a real talent, is going to be unavailable for this game. No Bukayo Saka. Lots of problems at the back over the course of the last few weeks. So, listen, when the draw came out, it was a nightmare, wasn't it?
Typical.
Almost the worst possible draw you get. Probably this and Liverpool away, I would argue. Maybe City, but they're not pulling up any trees. But if you're going to win the FA Cup, you're going to have to do it the hard way. We did it last season, didn't we? Knocked out Liverpool in the quarter-final, beat City in the final.
Beat Coventry,
just about.
That was one of the lot.
It's a tough start to the defence, but I'm more confident now than I was when the draw was made. And again, this is going to tell us just how much progress was made at Anfield, because stringing together back-to-back performances, let alone results, have been very difficult for Manchester United since the start of last season, arguably. If they can follow up a draw at Anfield and somehow get through this weekend, and remember, there's no replays.
No, straight.
So it might be penalties. If they can get through, I think that'd be massive. That's
a big one, isn't it, Angelina? Because, of course, the players, we saw Bruno speak about it, we saw Ruben talk about it, saying that, look, this is the level now. And Crookie's so right. How important is it for them to go and show the similar type of performance? And also, what type of team do you expect to see put out there, considering it's another full weeks of training and, more importantly, rest?
I agree with what Crookie had already said about wanting to see a similar lineup, to be honest. I think that it's been good for Ruben to play around with things, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I would say. This is a team that played extremely well against Liverpool, so I would like to see the same team against Arsenal. I think it's going to be a really interesting one for me. I'm trying to not think too much about the result. I just want what we said, after the Newcastle game. We were getting frustrated because you're walking away from every game with no positives to take.
Exactly.
I just want to be able to walk away from this game with us in good stead, having made a good account of ourselves in what on paper is quite a difficult game. I don't know if for Arsenal, because they have arguably bigger fish to fry with the Premier League and chasing Liverpool, will they be as invested, or will Arteta be thinking, if this Premier League's running away from me, I need a trophy. So, you know, I need to
really seriously,
I need to put my all into it. I think in some ways that kind of tips the scale of the pressure being more on Arteta. I think that for Manchester United, what the fans will want is just much of the same from Liverpool, of us going, like that first half, the last time that we faced them, where I think we gave a good account of ourselves. But, you know, just pushing on a little bit further than that, you would like to think they've been working on the set pieces again. I don't want another issue with that.
That's the thing, Angelina. It's the set pieces for me. I mean,
yeah.
I definitely feel more at ease about putting in a better performance and being more positive than I was going into the Emirates the first time. Not just off of the fact that we kind of shut Arsenal down a lot in open play. But more so with what we've just seen at Liverpool. There's something there. If they can perform to that level and pick that same team again, maybe bring in a Euro for De Ligt, maybe give him a start. I think that would be nice. We've got to tweak a few things, but I agree with you, Angelina. Basically, keep the team round about the same. Does he want to give Xerxes a start, get confidence up? You know, maybe that's something up front he could do. But I think Bruno Ahmad, you've got to stay where you are. Whole week's, worth of rest/training. You go with Kobe and Ugarte again. Mazraoui, right wing back for sure for me. Dalot again.
Dalot played well, by the way.
He's
taken a bit of stick this season.
Exactly.
He played well.
Trent really did play badly, but, Dalot did play well. So it's about trying to build on those bits of confidence, isn't it, Crook? I mean, look, some of the stats here, pre-match insights. Arsenal have eliminated the holders of the FA Cup on each of the last 6 occasions they've faced them. Most recently beating Manchester United 2-0 in the 1920 semi-final. However, Man United have won 3 of their last 4 FA Cup games against the Gunners, including their only previous meeting at the Emirates in the competition.
That was with Ollie in
3-1 in 2019.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was the last time I think we won at the Emirates. That was Jesse Lingard doing the moonwalk that time. Man United.
Friday night. I seem to recall that was a Friday night.
I think so. I want to say.
I watched it with the father-in-law, who's a massive Arsenal fan, so
So
I
you
enjoyed
remember
that.
Good memories.
Man United have eliminated Arsenal from the FA Cup more than any other side in the competition's history, 8 times. While the Gunners have knocked out the Red Devils more than any other team as well, with 7 times. And Man United have progressed from the 3rd round of the FA Cup in each of the last 10 campaigns since a 2-1 loss to Swansea. In the 13-14 season, remember that? No. They kept a clean sheet in 9 of their initial 10 third-round matches in that run. So look, there's some, depending on how you want to look at it, there's some stats that go for us and some stats that go against us. But is it performance as well, though? The most important thing? We can easily lose this game. We're not going to be favourites to win this game after a draw at Anfield. We still need to remember who we are. The set pieces that Arsenal have as well, we still need to remember how much we struggled with that. Every time Arsenal had a corner, that's not just going to go away because Arsenal got through problems in open play, is it, Crookie?
No, it isn't. I thought we actually dealt with corners better at Anfield. And obviously Liverpool have sort of taken a leaf out of the Arsenal book with the way they take a lot of their corners now. Keep an eye in goal, by the way, Ruben. If you're listening, don't get any ideas about putting your cup goalkeeper in because he had a shocker at Tottenham. Euro's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think what that back line is probably lacking is pace.
Yeah.
And Euro brings that. So it'd be interesting to see how soon Ruben Amorim integrates him in the side. But yeah, what do we want to see? A similar defensive performance to what we saw in the league game, but with a little bit more positivity going forward because they were too passive, didn't really ask enough questions of Arsenal. And I actually think this is a good time to go there and take the game to Arsenal. Yeah,
they've got a couple of injuries, and I think if we can inflict an FA Cup exit on them, which would be, quite some thinking, Angelina. Pressure, like you said, just shifts over to Arsenal. You've got that 1-1 draw against Brighton. Yes, a bit of a dodgy penalty.
Don't lose at home very often.
Exactly, don't lose at home very often. The longer that game goes 0-0, similar to the first game we played against them, the fans weren't very happy with their Arsenal's performance. We need to have a similar sort of game plan, don't we? But with more belief.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is arguably a good time to be facing Arsenal. I mean, their performance in the Premier League has not been good enough. It's another, kind of Groundhog Day for fans of thinking, are we ever actually, why do we keep getting so close but not quite getting there? So I think if United can, you get to half-time, it's 0-0, United have given a good account of themselves. The fans, the kind of atmosphere in a stadium like that, are they going to start feeling it, thinking, hang on a minute, We're nowhere near this Premier League title. We're going to go out of the FA Cup against Manchester United, who no one even knows who's going to rock up and how they're going to play the way that we've been. I can see the fans, getting quite frustrated with them. And I think that, yeah, it is a good opportunity. And I just want to see much of the same. I know that Arne Slot, I think he was being a little bit snide, in my opinion, the way that he was trying to make out, United were just playing long balls and
low block, yeah.
Yeah, all this rubbish. I just think he was maybe a little bit hurt. But I think much of the same, and I really hope that Dallow's on his A game again. I think I agree. I think that it was a great performance against Liverpool. He's a frustrating player, I think, because we see games like that where he's so good. Maybe Trent was that bad, I don't know. But yeah, you just want the same. You just want them to actually build with the City game. We fell after it. We just want it to be different this time. Even if United go out of this game, but it was a good game and we had good chances and we walk away from it, we've not embarrassed ourselves, I would be happy with that, because we have to lower our expectations as to if we're going to be winning a piece of silverware.
But if we were to win, I mean, where would that rank this season? Would that be bigger than the City away in the league? To win at Arsenal away in the Cup?
I think so. I think so.
They're a better team than City.
Because when we went into that City game, they weren't at their best. You could argue maybe Arsenal aren't 100% at their best, but they still have, pound for pound, you would probably say they have a better squad than us. They have one of the best centre-back pairings, in the league, if not the best. So I think to come away from a game like that, I think would be huge.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get the predictions locked in, because you were dodgy last week.
I
think
didn't
you
give
were lying
one.
to yourself. You said you didn't want to give one.
None of us gave one.
You said we don't need to even bother doing predictions.
Did I give
because
one?
No, you said...
Oh, we actually all said it was that bad.
You were like, we don't even need to give one because we all know what we're going to say. So we would have all been wrong. I'm going to jump back onto my positivity train.
But you thought we'd lose anyway, though.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just didn't admit it.
Okay, so this week you've seen a decent performance at Anfield. Emirates.
We can't end in a draw.
No.
We can end in a draw.
Well, yeah, it could end in a draw and go to... Normally I get a penalty feeling. You know what? Maybe I do have a bit of a penalty feeling.
Yeah?
Maybe 1-1 goes to pens. Yeah.
Okay. 1-1 and pens, Crookie.
That's exactly what I was going to predict.
Yeah.
1-1 and a penalty shootout. And Anana wasn't far away from saving Salah's penalty.
You know what?
No, I thought he should have probably saved it, actually, but probably a bit too much pace.
Power, yeah.
Yeah, but
he saved a couple of big pens, hasn't he? So, yeah, 1-1 and Nana the hero.
Guys, I'm sorry. I think we'll do well.
Here we go.
I think we'll do well, but I think we'll get just undone. But I think we'll give a really good account of us. I think we'll lose 2-1.
There you go.
But a good performance, in the game. Could have gone either way. Good account of ourselves. Nothing too bad. I'm hoping. Because also, I don't want to just rain on the parade, but we do have to remember what these players are like.
True.
This is a game that they got up for against Liverpool. Everyone's written them off. Everyone's laughing at you. You have to avoid a hiding. So they went and showed some character, went and showed some discipline and had a good level of application. Do I trust them to do that back to back? The jury's still out. So that's why I'm like, not sure. Yeah. So let's see what you guys think. That's all we've got time for on this week's episode of Inside Devils. A big thank you to Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly, of course, and Laurie Whitwell earlier in the show as well. We'll see you on the next one, hopefully into the fourth round of the FA Cup.